One of the things that separates the very best leaders is their ability to say no.
If you can help someone learn through a decision, I think that's a win-win long term.
How do you say no with care?
I would want the person to understand the context behind the no.
I think it's really important for us to start with. Welcome to the Lead Every Day Show. I'm Randy Gravitt.
And I'm Mark Miller.
And Mark, it is time for a new season. We're going into season 6. Can you believe that?
It's been fantastic.
It's been so much fun. And we got a few little milestones here. I don't know if you heard, but we hit 100,000 downloads. So how cool is that?
Yeah, I'm thankful.
That's what I would say. Thank you to all you guys who are out there listening, men and women, boys and girls. I've heard some young people that are even listening, which is kind of fun.
Good.
But the last few weeks, I've been doing events everywhere. I know you've been traveling some places, and it's so fun to run into people and say, hey, I'm listening to the show. And I saw a couple guys last week in some different places that didn't know, but they said, hey, I'm listening to the Lead Every Day Show every day on my way into work or on my way home, whatever. So it's fun to have some listeners, and we're gonna focus on them a little bit here.
Yeah, and they like the fact it's short.
That's their favorite comment.
I'm still hoping for somebody to say it's changed their life, but right now they're saying they like it because it's short. It'll change their life. It's a drip campaign.
They are saying they're getting some good stuff out of it. So that's fun. We got a book in the wild too. Yesterday was launch day for Winning Begins at Home, so that's fun.
Congratulations.
Got that out there. Yeah, I'm excited about that. If you have missed getting your copy, really the last couple of weeks we've been talking about the content there, and hope you had some of those episodes that were thought-provoking and had a chance to think through, maybe talk to some people. And you might even want to share the book. And we actually have a giveaway going on right now. I just found out, our team was telling me, if you go to leadeveryday.com/dad, we got a little Father's Day giveaway going on. And when I say Father's Day giveaway, it's a $400 gift certificate to the ballpark of your choice. Take your kids or whoever you want to take. Hopefully, take your family to a ball game, major league stadium of your choice. And so we're doing that. Leadeveryday.com/dad. So if you want to enter that, you can go there. Get in on that. They told me we got thousands of people already entered. So that's been cool. That little ad started running last week. And if you're interested in going to a ball game, go check that out. So a lot of fun stuff. You mentioned the listeners there. We had the listener survey. They did tell us the short. They like that. So we're going to try to keep these short. But one of the things we did was we asked them, are there some things that you would like for us to talk about? We had them submit some questions. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do a little summer series here for the next few weeks on some questions that they've submitted. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So you ready to dive into some questions?
Let's take some questions.
I've got a list here. We're going to start, and we'll just kind of work through them. We'll do one each episode, and we will keep it short. So let's start here first, Mark, with how do you say no with care? I thought that was such a great question to start with. Somebody's asking, how do you say no? We know we all have to say no sometimes, or we need to say no sometimes, but how do you do that in the right way is the question. So you got a thought to kick us off?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say that will be true for this entire series is I would encourage that you guys listening not misinterpret the brevity of our responses with the magnitude of the question. I mean, all of these questions are real questions.
And some great ones.
And they're great. And we could talk for a long, long time. And so I think it's appropriate to mention that here because even as I think about that question, I think context matters. And of course, we don't know the context. So I think maybe we'll share a few principles, maybe a few best practices, but every situation is different. So I would just ask that you give us a little grace as you think about our responses to this question and some of these other questions. As far as saying no with care, I think I would want the person that I'm dealing with to understand context as much as possible. Because part of what I think we have an opportunity to do as leaders is to help those we serve think more strategically, to think more intentionally, and literally to think better about the work they're doing. And if you can help someone learn through a decision, I think that's a win-win long term. So I would say the first thing, if I've got to say no, I would want the person to understand the context behind the no.
Yeah, that's really good. I want to give it a little different spin here. I was thinking about this, and I want to use the word empathy. We've talked about that here before. I don't know. This is an area where I have to work on this. Now, I don't know about you. You're probably more empathetic than I am, but
Zero.
But well, which I'm less than zero maybe sometimes. I mean, it's hard sometimes to think that way. And when I say empathy, let's remind everybody it means to understand and share in the feelings of another person. I think sometimes it's easy to understand like what you're going through if it's something hard, and I understand that, but I'm over here going, I'm really glad I'm not going through something hard, and that's
not empathy.
I think that's pity. That's what or whatever. And then if you're going through something good, and I understand that, but I'm over here wishing, man, I wish something good would happen to me. I would call that jealousy. I mean, that's not empathy. And so empathy is when I know it's hard for you, and so now it's hard for me.
You feel that.
I'm with you, and I feel that, and I'm actually supportive, and I'm helpful. So I think it's really important for us to start with empathy before we start with no. We're going to have to say no, but let's roll all the way back to the character of the leader. And you talk about this in the heart of leadership, that we want to become a leader that others want to follow. I think empathy is an important trait for us to work on, especially if you're not a person who feels empathy naturally as much as, I mean, there are people who just bleed for other people, and that's great. If you're not in that camp, I think that's something we need to work on.
Yeah.
It's not what we say as much as how we say it often. Mm-hmm. And that's the question, is how do we say no with care? I think let's start with care, and then when we say no, it'll be easier. And so it's just, to me, I think it's easy to, as high speed leaders, a lot of people listening are going to the top of the mountain. They're ready, ready to take something on. It's easy to think, I've got to say no to somebody. How do I care about them now when I say it? Because I know I need to say it in the right way. Let's start with the character piece of it, and if we get that right, then whether we say no or yes, we're gonna whatever we say, we're gonna say it with a heart that cares for our people. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good place to really focus for me. I don't know the context of the person.
Right.
I will say another thing. You and I both have been really challenged by, and this is a little bit of a nuance of this question, but you and I have really been challenged by Henry Cloud's Necessary Endings. And I think that book, if you've not read that book, I would encourage you to read it. It's really, really great resource. But Henry talks about one of the things that separates the very best leaders from really great leaders. I mean, that top 1%, I think he's the way he says it, is their ability to say no. And I want to just kind of build on it with our listeners' question. It's like how they say no. Now Henry's talking about saying no to things in your schedule and no to all kinds. But there's times where you have to say no to a person,
or to a project that a person owns.
That a person owns. Somebody's. Yeah, you're having to.
A strategy.
It was a good idea before, and it was your idea, and now we're having to say no to it. And you're like, what happened? And so. It's not just that we say no; it's how we say no. I think gets at the heart of this, and so I'm gonna, based on the question, I'm gonna keep working on my empathy here. I just think it's important.
Because the empathy could be the trigger for you to provide context.
Right.
Like, okay, because I understand your feelings, emotions, fears, and anxiety, I want to give you more context. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
And I guess one more little thing I would say is we actually talked about it in Winning Begins at Home a little bit, but how to give the person the home field advantage. I think if I'm going to say no to you, shouldn't I at least sit on your side of the table and think, okay, what's it going to be like for Mark to hear me say no in this scenario? Mm-hmm. And if I just ask myself that question, I think it's going to cause me to care a little more than if I got to tell Mark no, and then I'm going to move on to Joe or whatever, and I don't really think about. I mean, I think a lot of this is just being thoughtful of that other person in the situation they're in, because there's a good chance they might not want to hear no. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming, again, we don't know the context, but I'm assuming here in the context of this question that the reason they're asking it is it's going to be hard to say no, so I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what comes to mind for me. So
that's good.
Yeah. We'll keep working on this, keep learning how to say no with care. I think it's a great question. We got a bunch of questions here. Going to be fun to talk about that these next few weeks. If you've not subscribed to the newsletter, I hope you'll do that. You'll get an email from us each day with the show and some things that we've got in there to help you think about some of the things that we're talking about. We'll continue to try to provide you with resources to help you be the best leader you can. Remember, the best leaders lead every day.